I meant to actually do this yesterday, but I kind of forgot. Anyway, Jessica Jones Season 3 is also the final installment of the Marvel Netflix verse. So there was quite a bit expected from this season going into it, as well as the usual expectations of how it'll follow up Jessica Jones' story. This is essentially like two different seasons in the same 13 episode span. The first half of this season was pretty rocky. I mean, the first episode, the premiere, was actually pretty solid. And ended with Jessica Jones actually getting stabbed pretty badly. But then the second episode was all focused on Trish. Like going through basically training montage and vigilante montage sort of stuff. Now, I want to be a little bit soft on that episode because it was a directorial debut of Kristen Ritter, who plays Jessica Jones, and it was directed well. And it did kind of help bridge the gap between the season 2 finale and season 3 premiere in terms of understanding what happened, generally speaking. But when you end the previous episode with your main character getting stabbed pretty badly and rushed to the hospital, and you don't actually give us an update on that until like the very end of the following episode, you might want to rearrange your priorities. There's another episode where it's again focused on Trish mainly, but did help bridge the gap of a certain mystery that was going on in the previous episode, like and how Trish turned out to be involved with that. So while those two Trish focused centered episodes did provide some insight a little bit into terms of what was going on and how certain things happened, it didn't negate the fact that, especially starting off this season, I found myself hating Trish. I mean, in the first season of Jessica Jones, she was good. She served her part well. Second season, she was alright, played a key role, which she more or less did pretty well. But starting off in this season, I just hated her. I mean, her simple, naive look of black and white, right and wrong was just so goddamn annoying, especially when all of the other, everything else in Jessica Jones and the other Marvel Netflix shows show that not everything is necessarily black and white. And even someone like the Punisher agrees that, yeah, he's not exactly completely in the right either. I mean, even Danny Rand eventually wound up learning this lesson. But then the second half of this season was actually pretty good. Some intense stuff, especially in the final episode. It was actually kind of emotional in a way, especially for the fact that this was the final Marvel Netflix installment ever. With a nice little in memory of Stan Lee at the end, which was very nice. And let's talk. So Jessica Jones, played by Kristen Ritter, of course, always great. Trish, I hated her, especially during the first half of this season. In the second half, I still hated her as a character, but her story became a lot more interesting. So, props to that, I guess. Malcolm, he has a pretty interesting, engaging story as well. There's a recurring character named Eric who I like. Probably because my name is also Eric, but he does tie in kind of thematically and ties in legitimately into other stories going on in this season. And we've got the villain, Salinger, just a very intelligent serial killer. That may not sound that exciting, but he's actually a really solid, pretty great villain. He's not like Kingpin or probably not even Kilgrave, but I'd say he's like Bushmaster from Luke Cage Season 2 in terms of quality. I don't know how people feel about Bushmaster, but I thought he was a pretty good, interesting villain, especially a very powerful and memorable one, which I think Salinger was. He definitely left an impact in some very meaningful ways. The only problem with him was that it took until the 4th episode until we got a formal introduction of him. I mean, technically, he was the one that stabbed Jessica in the very first episode, but he was masked, and for the following 2 episodes, everyone thought it was someone completely different. So we didn't actually get a formal introduction of him until episode 4. With most of the other Marvel Netflix seasons, you expect like at least one good formal introductory scene of the villain in either the first or second episode to establish the conflict of this story. And if you don't do that until the 4th episode of your 13 episode season, again, you probably would have wanted to change something. So there are some decisions that are made that seem really odd to make, especially considering the importance of this season in general. Although, to be fair, it did come as a surprise when Netflix started canceling the Marvel Netflix shows. But at the end of the day, it wasn't really everything I could have wanted for a Jessica Jones season, at least at first, but towards the end, it did, in most of the important ways, redeem itself a little bit, actually quite a bit, and it did also give us a final farewell to the Marvel Netflix verse. So, again, there's a lot of stuff that I would have changed drastically in order to make this a lot better, but towards the end, I think it did its job well. I mean, obviously, it's not perfect at all, but it's definitely worth the watch, I think. So that's all I really have to say. Next time I talk about the Marvel Netflix verse will probably be the last formal time I do it. And it'll be a special one. So like, comment, subscribe, share, and I'll see you guys next time.